Today on What's the Difference, we're going to talk about the 3 different swan species that you're most likely to find in North America, and what the differences are between them. The 3 species of swans that you're most likely to find in North America are the mute swan, the trumpeter swan, and the tundra swan. Now, the tundra swan and the trumpeter swan might look kind of similar, but we're going to figure out the differences between those two in just a little bit. For now, we're going to start off with the mute swan. The mute swan is probably the one that's most readily identified. It has a bright orange bill, which sets it apart from the tundra swan and trumpeter swan, and is also the only swan of the 3 that isn't native to North America. The majority of mute swans were brought over from Europe, just because they looked nice. They're kind of like decoration swans. Next up, we got the trumpeter swan. Unlike the mute swan, the trumpeter swan has an all-black bill, and also has the largest wingspan out of these 3 birds. And is very frickin' noisy, as loud as a trumpet. Up until the late 1800s, trumpeter swans were hunted for their feathers, which would adorn fancy hats and powder puffs and even writing quills. Aggressive conservation helped this species recover by the early 2000s. They are now considered a species of low concern. And last but not least, we got the tundra swan. The tundra swan has a mostly black bill, but unlike the trumpeter swan, the tundra swan has just a little bit of yellow right there. Lewis and Clark provided the first written description of the tundra swan, and were blown away by the whistling sounds that the tundra swan makes. The American race of the tundra swan is now called the whistling swan. Let's get a close-up of the heads of these 3 birds, and check out why these bills are the most easy way to identify them. The mute swan has a bright orange bill, and it's kind of like bulbous and black there at the top mostly. The trumpeter swan probably has the most boring bill, just being plain black, but you know, they make up for it in like size and sound. And the tundra swan, well, it's got that black bill, but you get that little bit of yellow right there. That's just a little bit cooler than the trumpeter swan, if you ask me. Good job, tundra swan. So obviously, you have to see these swans up close to identify them by the different variations of their bills. So things I would look for right away from a distance would be conservation tags on their wings, maybe indicating which species of swan it is. Also, the upright posturing that mute swans do with their wings is probably a good identifier from a distance. And if you got ears, listen for the whistling sound from the tundra swans. Or like that annoying honking sound that the trumpeter swans make. Those would be my best ways of identifying these swans from a distance. If you're asking me which of these swans would win in a fight, I'd have to go with the trumpeter swan. It's got the wingspan and the weight, weighing in at 10.5 kilograms. This ain't no small bird. Oh wait! I forgot to mention, there's like a 4th swan that's rarely seen in North America, but you know what? It is out there, so it's a possibility, and that one is called the whooper swan. Now, I haven't seen the whooper swan in North America, but I have seen it in Iceland, which are videos that are coming out sometime soon. So get ready for that. But until then, I hope this video helped you and you're able to maybe identify these swans a bit better than you could before. What's the difference? What's the difference?